Alright, in this video we are going to be identifying the function itself given the graph. In particular, we have to identify certain values such as b and h or b and k. So this graph, we are told, has the form f of x equals b to the x minus h power. So this whole thing is in the exponent. X minus h is in the exponent. Now, we know, because of this h value, that the graph is going to have shifted left or right. So an original graph, the parent graph as we call it, f of x equals b to the x without the h, should have some very particular points, right? We talked about those. -1, 1 over b, 0, 1 is the y-intercept, and 1b. So it's going to be easy to find this h value to know how far it's shifted left or right using the y-intercept. So this is where the y-intercept should be at 0, 1. But we see that it's moved here. So it has shifted right 3. So h is 3. And then when we plug it in, it'll end up x minus 3, right? X minus h. So just look for the y-intercept, and then how far left and right did it move? It moved right 3. So h is 3. That's the first step. We know h. Now we have to find b. So let's talk about the difference in our graphs, right? We know that if it's a whole number, it should be going up from left to right. If it's a fraction, it should be coming down from left to right. And in our graph, it is coming down. So we know b is going to be a fraction. So b has to be a fraction of some form. Because we're not going to get tricky. There's not going to be negative. There's no negative x here. Okay, so it's coming down from left to right, needs to be a fraction. So let's talk about fractions real quick. So if the base is a fraction versus if the base is not a fraction, remember that point -1, 1 over b was a nasty fraction when this was a whole number because it was 1 over 3. Versus if it's already a fraction, then 1 over b becomes 1 over a fraction, and when we have a fraction in the denominator, we take the reciprocal. That's why we ended up with a whole number here. So we're going to go ahead and use the -1 of our value of our original graph. So b to the x has a value at -1, 1 over b. But because we know it's coming down from left to right and it's going to be a fraction, 1 over b is actually going to be a whole number. So here's the 0, 1 as it's shifted to the right. So if we go back 1, this is the point that would be -1, 1 over b, right? Because it would be shifted back 3 to this original point, and there's the -1. So we can figure out what the denominator of our fraction is going to be using this value. So when it was 1 over 4, -1 was at a height of 4. Here we have 2. So our b is going to be 1 over 2. That's our b value. And we already know it's going to be -3 because that was our h value. So this function, f of x, is 1/2 to the x minus 3 power. Right? So the keys were it was coming down. I knew b would be a fraction. So after I identified how far it had shifted, it shifted right 3. I went back 1 point, and then that's my height of 2. And because it was a fraction, I know that this is 1 over 2 because it needed to end up a fraction to come down. Go ahead and try this example on the right. But now it's shifting this k value, so it's in the form b to the x plus k. This shifts it up and down. So you have to figure out how far it has shifted up or down from the original graph. Alright, so the question is, did you start here with the 0, 1? So this is the original graph before we've added this k value. So it would start here at 0, 1. And because we have this plus k, we know it's shifted up or down. And in this case, it has shifted up 2 points from where it should be. So 1, 2 to get to the next point up. So that's our k. K is 2 because it's gone up 2 from the original value of 0, 1. Now we have to find our b. So because this is moving upward from left to right to increasing, we know b is going to be a whole number. It's not a fraction. And we can find that value by looking at the point 1b, right? Again, because it's not a fraction, we're going to use the 1b. So going over 1 on our graph, we're here. So here's where it intersects at 1, but we know that it shifted up 2. So I'm going to take it back down 2, and that's where it should be. That means our b value would be 4, right? Because here it's at the height of 4. So our equation would be f of x equals, our b value is 4 to the x power, and then plus 2, because it shifted up 2. You can also see here that we have this asymptote at 2. So that y equals 2 is the asymptote, and that graph will never go below 2. So that's another way of identifying your k. And there you have it. So again, going up from left to right, it's a whole number. It shifted up 2 from the original 0, 1, so 2 is our k. And then I went over to the point 1b, so it should be 1 and our b value. But because our number was up here and it had shifted up 2, I brought it back down 2 to find b. If it's a fraction, you have to use the -1 value. So you go back 1 from your 0, 1 point that has shifted. And then that value is going to be 1 over whatever this height is. So 1 over 2. And so that's how it shifts from left to right or up and down.